Josh Rouse with Rouse Outdoors, and today I'm going to talk to you about bass lures. Alright, so there are several different types of bass lures. First type, which is commonly used, is a topwater popper. Now what you will do with this, tie your lure in right here, you're going to cast it out, and this thing's going to float. Basically what you do is you want to not reel it. You don't want to reel it. You want to pull your rod, make it jerk forward. Now normally what happens when you pull it is it's going to, because of the lip, it will dive under a little bit and create a loud popping noise that, underwater it's very loud. So it's going to attract a lot of fish, mostly large bass. You'll occasionally get a few small bass in here, but something like this is going to require a big bass to take it down. Here's another type of topwater bait. This doesn't pop. This is more of a retrieval lure that it kind of walks across water. It's called a jitterbug. And when you retrieve it, it's going to do this and just kind of walk across and cause little waves with this little propeller sort of deal. And it's just going to keep doing that until it gets hit. Now with this one, this topwater popper, when the fish takes the lure, you're going to want to wait a few seconds. You don't want to immediately pull, because you're going to lose a fish that way. With this one, it's more of a reaction pull. You can pull pretty much immediately and catch a fish. And we have the worm, the old plastic worm. I think just about everyone's used one of these before. There's a few different ways to rig it up, and I'll show you some of those in my videos. And also there is the Grub, and this is just a real basic jig where you have a head right here, big old fat head, and then that connects to a hook, and you probably can't see the hook, but it goes through the body of the jig and out on the bottom. Now this is a great one for crappie and bass, but the big problem is this thing goes underwater and gets caught very often in weeds, and it's definitely one of those lures that will snag you a lot on different things in the environment, like logs and rocks and weeds and things of that nature. Now here's another topwater popper. It's a little longer, a little bit bigger, and you can see this one is more of a fish type of design. It looks like a fish when you look at it. It's got a big eye, which is very characteristic of small bait fish. This one more, I think, is supposed to represent a frog going across the top of the water. Now the reason you have to know the difference between these things is you have to know what type of fish your bass is going to bite on, or what type of lure. If there's a lot of frogs in the pond, you might want to go with the frog one. If it's a spot that maybe minnows or smaller bait fish catch you a lot of bass, then this might be the way to go. Also, anything with red on it, you can see there's a little bit of red here on the end, on the tail. That's good for this sort of a lure, because it creates the illusion that the fish is injured. And so the more erratic you go, meaning don't just do long, 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 don't do the same length of jerk every time. You want to do short, short, and maybe let it go for a couple minutes, then long, let it go, short, short, then maybe another short one. And you want it to be erratic, you don't want it to be too predictable. Now here's a spinner, a real basic spinner. And somehow I got a treble hook tangled up in here. Just a real basic spinner. And what you're going to use this for is on very sunny days, you're just going to want to just troll this through. And as it trolls, it's going to spin like that, which creates a lot of movement in the water, and also you can see that reflects pretty good off that light, which is going to attract a fish. So it's just going to spin through the water, kind of torpedo by the design of this thing. And just go through the water, attracting light. Not very good for low light conditions though. And now finally we get to the big boys, the crankbaits, all these things. You know, everyone knows Rapala. You know, they're a big company, and they have a lot of crankbaits and things of that nature. These are just pretty much, you just reel them in and try to use this bill on the end to try to dig in the mud a little bit, like a feeding fish, or maybe if there's a log there, maybe try to hit it off the log. Don't get snagged though, because it's very easy to do with these treble hooks. But just feed not like a little feeder fish on the bottom. Now these don't stay on top. So as soon as you start reeling, it's gonna go under. Same with this little guy. He's made to look like a crawdad. And you just reel him in, and it looks like a little crawdad crawling along the bottom. And bass love that. Especially these are very good lures for reactionary hits instead of feeding hits. And basically what I mean by that is bass are very I don't know the word to say. They have their own little space. They like to have their own little space. They don't like anything to come in their space. They're very aggressive when it comes to that. So as you reel this thing along, if it goes through their little zone, they're going to hit it. And it might not always be because they're hungry. It's because they're defending their little area. Same with the topwater poppers. If this goes through their area, they're going to go for it. Now it might not always be because they're hungry. It's because they're reacting. So there's just a little bit about the different lures we use for bass fishing, and a little bit about how to use them. And for more information, go to www.rouseoutdoors.net and see for yourself.